Hi, this is Penny. Welcome to my studio. This video is going to show you how I make my standard fabric buttons. There are many ways or many effects you can achieve, but these are just my basic buttons. The beginning of the video shows you how I make the fabric, and then I show you how I cut them and form them. And then at the end, for those that are interested, there's another section on the tools that you need to use a soldering iron with fabric. So I hope you enjoy this. If you're worried about working with a respirator and cutting and melting and burning synthetic fabrics, please click away from this video right now, because I'm showing you how I do it. I'm not recommending that you do it. If you do, then it's your responsibility to look after your health. So you need to be fully aware that we're going to be working with fabrics that could be slightly toxic. Therefore, you do need a respirator. And you do need to work with a good airflow. If you come across a material that really smells bad, don't use it. Your lungs are far more important than making buttons. To make these successfully, you need synthetic fabric. Everything has to be polyester or maybe nylon of some kind. I don't use fabrics that smell really bad, even though I use a respirator, but there are a lot of thrift shop garments, particularly women's shirts and blouses, that are beautiful polyesters, and they're highly suitable. So stick to polyesters, particularly sheer ones or translucent ones, and also organza, polyester organza. You'll need a range of threads, but do make sure that they're all polyester. If you have even a few cotton stitches in your button fabric, it will make it very difficult to cut. Note that I have pure cotton disposable gloves, which I wear until they get so bad I can't wear them any longer. And also I'm in the middle of winter and it's really cold, so I have an anorak on, hence the thick sleeves. Please note that I'm working on a sheet of glass. It has sanded edges, so it's not sharp, and that's what I work on with my soldering iron. Now I've selected a few bright coloured plain opaque fabrics to go on top of the black felt base, and that will give me colour that shines through when I burn the top layers. They are all polyester, and I have to test now whether they cut or not. You need to test all your fabrics before you use them. So this velvet, this is a synthetic velvet, and I'm going to do a little cut, and yes, it cuts like butter. Good. So the next one is a very thin satiny type fabric, and that one, it also, this one also cuts. You can see how easily. Then I've got a lining fabric, a polyester lining fabric, and again, there you can see again, it cuts really, really well. This one's a bit thicker. It may not cut so easily. If it doesn't cut well, I won't use it. It does. It cuts quite well, but because of its thickness, I would only use one layer of this particular fabric. If I put 2 or 3 layers of thick fabric like that, it might be difficult to cut the buttons. So all 4 of those are going to be used on top of black felt, and then the other fabrics laid on top. This is the black felt that I'm going to use. It's a fairly thin felt. I'm keeping a thin felt because I'm stitching heavily through the whole lot. And after I have stitched it and burnt the surface, I'll then lay other thicker felt underneath to give the buttons some solidity. So the next step is to lay on my bright solid colours. Here I've laid large pieces on. I've no idea whether they're going to show at the end, but they may possibly, and they may also give a colour cast. And I have no idea how it's going to look. It's very much a serendipity effect. Here I've laid the patterned organza. It doesn't have to be patterned, but I've hopefully that will add interest. And I've laid those over the last colours randomly, though I have put the blue over the turquoise satin. I still have to overlay the organza now, and then I'll be stitching in different colours. So the whole sheet should be very, very colourful. After I'd pinned the pieces onto the felt base, I turned the felt base over and I trimmed all the excess fabric. None of these pieces will be wasted. They'll all go into the box for making beads and other things. And you can see how it's trimmed to the shape of the felt. So the next step is to start doing machine embroidery all over it. Use different colour cottons, different stitches. You don't have to use a lot of different stitches. I've used probably 3 or 4 different ones. And just randomly change colour and stitch and meander all over the place. Because don't forget, you're going to use very small areas, so you want to have stitching everywhere. So it's not important where or what you do, just cover the entire area with some form of stitching. Here you can see examples as I go across the piece of fabric, and different colours, different layers are going to make a tremendous effect. Here you can see the whole piece. Once you finish stitching, it's time to get out your heat gun, switch it on, let it warm up, and then burn the surface of the fabric. Don't do it too heavily, do it slowly, a bit at a time, and just expose as much of the underlying fabrics as you can. I made probably 6 holes where it burnt right through, but I can just, not cut those areas, but just take care not to burn right through to the black felt. And you can also see a couple of the holes that I've burnt. Now I've got a piece of thick felt. Thick felt's hard to get, but if you're lucky, you'll be able to find some. Or you can just layer a double layer of felt. Depends how thick you want your buttons to be. If they're small buttons, you just need a second layer of thin felt underneath your fabric. If it's a big button, then it pays to have either 2 thin layers of felt laid underneath or a thicker layer. In this case, I've used a thicker layer, and it's probably a bit thicker than I would like, but it was the only stuff I could get. And you can see here how thick it is. To help you decide exactly where you want to cut special buttons, take a piece of cereal packet card, draw a circle in the size of your template that you're going to use to cut them, and then cut a hole, draw around it and cut a hole in the cardboard. And then you can move that cardboard over the piece of fabric to find anything that you think might be special. In this case, I'm just going to start cutting because I'm going to cut the whole sheet. But sometimes you want a specific button, and this helps you decide what it's going to look like. So my soldering iron is in an upturned clay flower pot. I have the steel wool, 000 steel wool, in a piece of post-pack container, and that's for cleaning it. I've also got my washer, and I've also got my respirator. So those things are important. To see more details, go to the end of the video. This is a big hardware shop washer. It's heavy, and it's a bit rough on the bottom, which is good because it stops it slipping over the fabric. And you can see how thick it is, and it's also, the thickness also stops it getting really, really hot. The white gloves, the cotton disposable gloves, are very, very important because it saves your fingers getting lots of tiny burns. I never work without them with a soldering iron. So select the area that you want to cut, or just cut anywhere, and lay down your washer. My sleeve here does tend to threaten to hide the cutting, but fortunately it doesn't completely hide it. So you can see I have to go slowly because it's a very thick cut, and my soldering iron isn't temperature controlled, so it only gets to a certain temperature. So it takes a little while. It grunts a bit doing very thick. But one thing you do need to do, which is important, is to hold your soldering iron at 90 degrees to your fabric. Keep it upright at all times and keep it pressed in against the template, against the washer, so you get a cut that goes right around the very edge of the washer, and it's a straight up and down cut. And then I push it out and it sticks to the washer, and what it does is push up a little bit of melted plasticky stuff up the side of the washer. And you can see now how it's got, this is actually quite a big one, you can see how it's got a sort of melted plasticky stuff. So holding the scissors horizontal to the button, because you don't want to cut the edge, trim off the thin plasticky rim, the rough stuff. Don't use your dressmaking shears. I'm actually using them here, and I realised I should just use normal scissors because it's plastic and I don't want to wreck my shears. But go all the way around, very carefully cut off the rough bits, and then take your soldering iron, and using the shaft of the soldering iron and holding it at sort of 20 degrees to the, almost flat over the button, just run it around the sides that you've cut on the top, and that smooths it off and gives you a neater round edge. It gets a bit gunky, but that's why you've got the steel wool, and the steel wool is a 000 fine steel wool. So now you need to clean it. And here's your button. It's got a little flaw on it there where I stopped cutting, so I'm just going to use the shaft to smooth the edge of the button, and also I'm also smoothing the bottom. I don't normally do the bottom, but I just thought I'd try it and see what happened. So that's one button cut, two in actual fact, except you didn't see the first one. Now I'm just cleaning the iron, and I'm going to make holes in the centre of the button. I'll just put 2 in. I don't really like putting 4 in. 1. And press it down because it seals it. Press it down again because it seals it. And now you can see both of them, both buttons hold and finished off. And up closer. And you can see how they're slightly flexible. And now trying them on other parts of the same fabric, you can see the differences between the areas of the fabric. Every button on this is going to be different. You can, of course, if you want to make sets of buttons, you can make the fabric a little more uniform in certain areas, and then you can make sets. So here you can see a lot of the finished ones. I've cut the entire sheet now, and as you can see, each one's completely different. So when I put them on cards, I'll be putting buttons that look reasonably good together, because I won't have any sets in this piece of material. And then I cut a heart at the end, and then a thin heart piece off the thick fabric, and I made another smaller heart, and I soldered that onto the bigger heart. So, just as a matter of interest, this is a very large button, and it was made from postage plastic sort of thing, you know, plastic envelopes and fragile tape and things like that. And I made 2 sheets of it using just a heat gun, and then I used the soldering iron to cut out the button just like with the previous ones. From that fabric I made these little icons. Well, they stand about 25 centimeters high, and they're just made from a sheet of plastic. And I had to set in velvets and synthetic velvets and things like that. But that's just something else you can do with the iron. That's the end of the video, basically, except for those that want to learn more about the equipment. Now, first of all, if you are looking at going into using a soldering iron and you have absolutely no experience whatsoever and no idea how to use it, I can't recommend this Margaret Beale's New Ideas in Fusing Fabric enough. It's got every single thing that you need to know about tools, about projects, about ideas. There are all sorts of things in here. She's an amazing craftsperson, and she does beautiful work. Everyone's work obviously is very different, but she is a master at using the soldering iron. So, and the reason that I'm actually going to look through this book is because she has a picture here of what's called a mirror plate. It's this brass tool, and it's a beautiful tool, and it's obviously expensive because it's brass. So I have a little cheap aluminium handmade one which does exactly the same job and costs a fraction of the price. But anyway, if you have one of these, then that's a good tool. So we're going to now look at things like this. So this tool is made from fairly thin aluminium, not thin enough that if you put pressure on it, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on it now, that it's going to bend, but as thin as possible without it bending. So you can't use an aluminium can or anything. Now you can make them that length, which is about the length of my finger, or you can make them longer. They really actually function like a steel ruler, except with a steel ruler you have your fingers right down near the iron point, and also this ruler can slip, whereas this one holds it very firmly. And the way it's used is like this. You have your layered fabrics and you hold it so that you put pressure on that, and then you run, and this iron is not hot, it's not plugged in, you run your iron along there, and the pressure that you're applying with this tool makes the fabrics fuse together. So if you've got, say, 3 layers of fabric under there, once you cut it, they'll all be fused into one piece on the edge. If you don't put pressure on and you cut, then the top piece will just fly apart like you cut it with scissors, and it won't adhere. So this is great if you're going to do a longer line. You can just literally just move it and repeat. So invaluable tool, and very, if you know someone that can cut aluminium for you, ask them to do you one, and maybe a longer one as well. So the next tool that you would need is very simple to get. It's a washer from the hardware shop. It's quite a thick one, and when you put it down it doesn't shift around. It stays where you put it, whereas a coin will slip if you move your fingers on it. Here you can move your fingers around without fear of moving the washer, and you can get them in all different sizes. So go and get one of each of whatever size you think you'll need from the hardware shop. So then the next thing you need, of course, is disposable, 100% cotton only, no synthetics, but just 100% cotton gloves. They come in different styles. If you get synthetic gloves or you don't wear gloves, this is going to happen to your fingers. If you use synthetic, this will melt into your skin, and if you haven't got any gloves at all, well, you're going to get burnt. So you can buy these in packs of 20 or 50, and they're quite cheap. So I'd suggest seriously getting a big packet of those. You can use them for quite a long time. Now the next thing is steel wool. That's 000, and if you can get a finer wool, great, get it, but if not, use a 000 steel wool, and don't go any coarser because it's not good for the blade. And the reason you use it is when your blade gets melted fabric on, which it does constantly, then you just literally wipe it off like that. It comes off very easily when it's hot. When this gets really caked up, you just pull it out, open it up a bit, get some fresh stuff, push it back in. And always leave it protruding out a little so that you're not wiping your thing on the cardboard. I've just got a piece of post-pack roll with Gorilla Tape across it. The next one is an earthenware flower pot, just in case you want to take a break and do some gardening. No, not really. This one is a bit of a strange shape, but the ordinary standard common earthenware flower pot is good. It has to be tall enough that when you put your blade in like that, it's not going to touch the table. So it keeps it safe, and you can wiggle it around. Because soldering irons always have thick cords, they're not very soft and flexible. And if you knock it, it jumps around. Now that keeps it in, and it also keeps the wind off or any airflow off the point, so it doesn't cool it prematurely. Now if you have it in like that and you knock it, it jumps around all over the place, and it can even pop out, and you don't want a hot soldering iron flying around your table. So a small flower pot, but it must be earthenware, obviously, not plastic. Then we're going to look at the iron itself, and this one I've got black tape around this to hold this on. I'm not sure why, but I just knew it was necessary at the time. Under here it says Margaret. It's in Margaret Beale Fusing Fabric, and she designed it specifically for fabric. And I've had mine now for 10 years. It's gone brown from just constant heating, and it's not as coppery as it used to be. It's actually more copper now than I've ever had on it because I've been doing the filming. But you can buy a new shaft and point if this one gets damaged or gets blunt. And it's a perfect iron. It doesn't have variable temperature control, but it's been hot enough for everything that I use, everything that I do with it. When it's cold, all the time, unless it's actually hot, I've got this thick hardware shop clear tube, and it doesn't even have to be clear, and I push that on, and that it lives in there, and that protects it. So when it's an English iron, so it needed this adapter here, and I'm not sure whether it came with that or whether I had one already. So, and then your respirator. You do need a respirator for this, and it has to be one that is made for vapours and noxious smells, not a dust one. It has filters on both sides, and I don't know anything about the filters, I'm afraid. I just got this from a hardware shop. This part goes over your head, obviously. This fits over your nose and over your mouth. It's perfect. It's not terribly comfortable, and it obviously muffles your voice a bit, And if you wear it for a long time, it will leave that mark on your face, but and it stays for quite a long time. So if you don't want a mark on your face, then keep taking breaks and removing it. Also in the hot weather, it's a little bit unbearable at times if you keep it on too long, but otherwise it's quite comfortable, and it definitely stops you doing damage to your lungs. If, however, I get a fabric that is very, very smelly, really bad, I won't use it. I'll just put it aside and not use it. So it's common sense you'd use for this. So this is a nice little respirator. And you really do need a respirator to protect yourself. And the last thing you need is a sheet of glass or a gloss finish smooth ceramic tile. It must be smooth. Textured tiles are no good because you can't cut properly on them. This is a very old piece of glass. It's also very thick, and it's also ground down on the edges. So if you can't get glass that's ground down on the edges, get yourself a ceramic tile. And that's really all you need to start with. For those of you that are serious about getting into using a soldering iron, these are just the basics, and you'll obviously discover a lot more as you go along, and I hope that this was informative for you. I will be doing other videos on using a soldering iron. I'm not sure when, maybe the next one, maybe not, but there definitely will be others, so I hope you will join me then. Until then, thanks very much for watching.